Okay. Hi, I'm Michael Kirshenbaum. I'm the Conservation Director at the Skagit Land Trust. We're at the Land Trust Cumberland Creek Conservation Area. This is one of 45 properties throughout Skagit County that the Land Trust owns and protects for natural habitat and other conservation features. The Skagit Land Trust has been around for over 25 years, and we're a membership-based organization. We have over 1,000 members, families in Skagit County. We work with partners and volunteers to protect some of the best places in the county, to protect them for fish and wildlife, for ecological function, for human access and enjoyment. I've been at the Land Trust for almost 15 years now. I started as the stewardship director, responsible for managing the properties, and now am working on acquiring and protecting new properties. And we're really lucky in Skagit County to have a whole range of organizations and agencies and tribal partners who are trying to conserve some of the best places and restore those that need restoration. Yeah, so salmon, boy, it really brings it all together. I mean, in so many ways. Culturally, salmon are so important to the tribal nations, whose ancestral homes this is, where we're at. It's so important culturally to people who fish and use the salmon as a resource, and it's important culturally as a wildlife species that people know that the amazing miracle of salmon, the way that they spend time in the ocean, spawn back, that the wildlife is living a natural life cycle. We're so fortunate here in the Skagit to have all 5 species of Pacific wild salmon that are native to the Skagit River. So much of the work that the Land Trust does, and in partnership with groups like Skagit Fisheries Enhancement Group, is to try to protect critical properties, critical habitat like this one here, Cumberland Creek, for salmon habitats. And that means not just protecting the creeks themselves, but protecting the land around the creeks, the trees that provide shade to cool the creeks, that provide nutrients into the water, and wood that falls in that creates pools for the salmon to spawn in and to rear in. It really ties together the whole ecosystem. Other species benefit from the salmon protection, everything down to the amphibians and the insects that we can't really see, all the way up to the big mammals, the bear that come down and eat the salmon carcasses after they spawn, the eagles that are attracted to the Skagit. The salmon are amazing in their own right, but they are such a true keystone and a true icon for the ecology and culture of this region. Yeah, so here at the Cumberland Creek Conservation Area, the Land Trust owns 210 acres of a 300-acre peninsula that sticks out into the Skagit. It kind of looks like a big green thumb sticking out into the Skagit. If you look at an aerial photo of this area, you'll see a lot of developed land kind of all around, and then the Cumberland Peninsula, these 300 acres, really stands out for being pretty natural, pretty wild. So the Land Trust owns most of it. CLC Light owns a chunk of it also. So almost all these 300 acres have been protected. The protection of this peninsula came largely through a grant from Washington State's Salmon Recovery Funding Board. So that money helped the Land Trust buy the land, and then since we've owned it, we've been working to protect the forest, protect the streams, and restore habitat, and to open up 2 miles of trail here so that people can come and enjoy salmon viewing and access to the river for wildlife viewing, for peace and quiet, for fishing, for whatever they like. So here at the Cumberland Creek Conservation Area, one of the projects the Land Trust is most proud of is Cumberland Creek itself, if you can see that. About 6 years ago, the Land Trust worked in partnership with Skagit County and the Skagit River System Cooperative and the Army Corps of Engineers to restore Cumberland Creek into its historic channel. back when the road behind us over here was put into place 80 years ago or so, it altered the flow of Cumberland. So it took it out of its original channel and it created this very straight, unnatural channel to the Skagit. What was lost was over 4,000 feet of stream habitat for salmon and fish. As part of a project working in partnership with all those folks, we were able to restore Cumberland to its original channel by creating a big log jam way further upstream. And you wouldn't even believe there was a creek here before that happened. It was completely overgrown. The old channel was kind of lost. As soon as Cumberland was pointed back in the right direction, it found its historic channel. And now we have 4,000 feet of original salmon habitat restored. And we've seen Chinook and coho and steelhead in this creek. So it's a great example of once land is protected and is in conservation ownership, there's all kinds of opportunities to work in partnership with groups to bring it back to its full ecological functioning. So Skagit Land Trust works throughout Skagit County. We have different areas that we focus on and we have projects in. All the way out in the islands, on Guimas Island and Cypress Island, the Land Trust protects marine shorelines and uplands. There's a great trail up the top of Guimas Mountain. You should go and hike if you've never done that before. And then we work on projects all the way up the Skagit River, all the way up to east of Marble Mount near Bacon Creek. Along with the salmon habitat, fish habitat, we try to protect forest lands, working forest lands, farm and open space, other types of habitat that create key connections between the tremendous public land resource that we have in Skagit County, find those connections down to the river, down to the Puget Sound, to make sure that there's full connectivity for wildlife and for people to enjoy these natural places. So most land trust properties are open for public access. Some, like Cumberland Creek here, have developed trails. There's more than 2 miles of trail here at Cumberland Creek. There's a handful of properties like that, and we have a guide to hiking and accessing land trust properties on the Land Trust webpage. Almost all of our properties are open to the public. Some don't really have trails, but people know the way down to the river to go fishing, or they can use them for other wildlife viewing opportunities. Right outside of Concrete, there's Hearn Field, which is a big wildlife pullout where you can often see part of the North Cascade elk herd. So we really do welcome the community onto the properties. Community engagement is so important to what the Land Trust does. Volunteers, that ranges from school groups who are out here helping us do citizen science and collect data and use properties like this as a conservation classroom. We've partnered with Skagit Fisheries Enhancement Group around that quite a bit. 2 volunteers who help us plant trees and take care of invasive species. We really want the community to be part of these lands long term. Yeah, so land trusts work on private land. So it's private land that's owned by the land trust, or it's private land that people own, and we hold what are called conservation easements on those properties that are permanent protections for other privately held land. And both of those, in a way, is how the community can kind of come together and express itself and its conservation intent. And by that I mean, we have a lot of public land in Skagit County, but there are a lot of places, a lot of smaller parcels of land, 10 acres, 50 or 100, that are incredibly important, not just for the fish and for the wildlife, but also for people. They're these beloved places. We call it places people love. It's a whole category of things that we're trying to protect. And there's usually a lot of overlap there. It's not just one thing. It's great fish habitat, but it's also a place people have come to for generations, sometimes many, many generations, here to fish or to walk or to go birding, sometimes to go hunting. So the Land Trust tries to manage its properties clearly to protect the ecological integrity and the conservation goals, but they're also managed for people to enjoy directly and they provide a function for the bigger community as well. These properties help filter the water that we all drink. They provide buffer areas in the floodplains, so after a big Skagit flood happens, there isn't as much to clean up anymore because some of these lands are wild, so we don't have to spend a lot of money kind of coming in and doing cleanup in these floodplain areas. They provide habitat for the species that people fish and eat. So even if you don't directly come and walk on these trails, they're really providing a benefit to service to the community as a whole.